2026 just got even crazier, part 10. Well guys, it's the first of the month, and this February is going to be perfect, because just look at this calendar right here. If you don't understand, well, this month starts on a Sunday in a non-leap year, and the month's 28 days fit perfectly into 7-day rows. The last time we've seen this is in 2015, and we won't see it again till 2037, meaning this February has to be special. Next, you guys remember how Apple removed the buttons from their iPhones? Well, it looks like PlayStation saw that and was like, hey, what a great idea, because they just filed a patent for a controller that has no buttons at all. Instead, it would be a touchscreen surface and pressure sensing to simulate buttons. See, in the future, we really could be playing on controllers with no buttons at all. Finally, AI now has its own social network. Yeah, no joke, because this site has been going viral, and it's like a Reddit-style social media designed entirely for AI bots. It currently has over 30,000 AI bots talking with each other right now, and as of right now, the AI bots are literally just in there complaining about humans. You know, this is why I say please and thank you to ChatGPT.
Just imagine you're selling something on Facebook Market and then you're murdered just because the buyer isn't happy with their purchase. That's exactly what happened to 30-year-old Eliza Morales. Her and her husband listed a Ford truck on Facebook Market, and on that same day, a 19-year-old named Nidas Ravucas contacted them, met up with them, and he bought the truck. A few days later, Nidas and Eliza arranged a time to meet at her apartment so that she can give him the license plate and other documents for the car. Mind you, she was going to be home alone. It was 5:30 on a Monday when Nedas is seen on surveillance arriving to Eliza's apartment. She hands him a screwdriver, I'm assuming so that he can put on the license plate, and then a few minutes later he's seen pushing Eliza into her apartment, and then the door is seen opening and closing, kind of like there's a struggle. Eventually he managed to close the door and he stabbed Eliza 70 times to the neck and head. 10 minutes later, smoke is seen coming out of her apartment. This man set her place on fire. But not only that, this disgusting man also went after their dog and stabbed that poor baby in the eyes. The dog eventually escaped and was fine, but obviously Eliza did not survive, as well as her unborn baby. She was due in a couple months, and what's disturbing is that this man confessed to the murder, but he also explained that she basically begged him to stop because she was pregnant. He literally told investigators step by step of what happened and said that he was just angry that he bought this car and took his anger out on her. Absolutely fucking terrifying. So just a reminder, if you're selling anything online, always do it in a public area and always have someone with you.
Insane true stories that you won't believe. Back in 2004, a man named Mitch, who was a senior in college, fell in love with a girl in his grade. After they graduated, they moved in together and began to work. And 2 years later, they got married. Not too long after, Mitch's wife became pregnant. But his job was going so well that his wife was able to stay at home and take care of their newborn baby. And a few years after that, his wife became pregnant again. Mitch absolutely adored his family. And with raising his kids and having a great job, he was living his best life. But one night while he was watching TV, he noticed something strange out of the corner of his eye. A red lamp in their family living room was blurry. Nothing else in the room was blurry to Mitch except for that lamp. He decided to shrug it off, but when he looked at it again, it was not only blurry, but it appeared to be upside down. He didn't tell his family because he didn't want to concern them. But after a few days, Mitch became obsessed over this lamp. He even skipped work just to stare at it all day long. And he eventually became unresponsive. Part 2's up now.
There are so many allegations made against Trump and many others in these new Epstein files, so the best way to go through them is person by person. Part 1, Donald Trump. Now, his name does come up a lot, to be more precise, over 1,000 times. In fact, the guy who just produced Melania Trump's new documentary, Brett Ratner, he was actually seen in the files as well, hugging a young girl next to Epstein. Now, just so you know, most of the Trump mentions in these files, there's no allegations of wrongdoing. They're more like things from news articles that Epstein was referencing in his emails to other people. However, there is one document in particular that has raised a lot of concern online. So last year, the FBI compiled a list of allegations that were made against Trump that they received in 2020 from a tip line that they set up, allowing anyone from the public to phone in and report a crime. And here we see a lot of disturbing allegations against Trump. One of the complaints details a woman who says that she was R-word, I can't say it on here, by Trump when she was just 13 years old. One of the complaints also alleged that Trump and Epstein held, quote, calendar girl parties at Mar-a-Lago, where Trump would auction off young girls and do horrific things to them. A different complaint alleges that Trump's golf course in California was the center of a trafficking ring between 95 and 96, and that some of the girls went missing and were allegedly buried at the facility. The files also include an FBI interview with one of Epstein's victims who stated that Epstein's accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, once presented her to Trump at a party, and then apparently Ghislaine making it very clear to Trump that this girl was available, with Ghislaine allegedly telling the girl, "Oh, I think he likes you, aren't you lucky? This is great." Now, there are a lot of tips that the FBI received, most of which are so graphic, I can't even repeat them on here. But here's the thing, in the documents themselves, the FBI say that none of these allegations can be substantiated, and that these claims had no supporting evidence to follow up on further. But ultimately, it's up to you guys to look at the facts and make your own minds up. But next, in part 2, we're talking about Bill Gates.
Here are some animal facts for you. Female octopuses will strangle and eat males who approach them when they're not in the mood. Octopuses also hold grudges and throw shells at others they don't like. There was a giant study that revealed that cats in the United States are friendlier than cats in Japan because in the United States we have a favorable view of cats and they spend more time with strangers and their owners. There was also a smaller study in Turkey that showed that cats will meow louder at men, but it does suggest that cats like to match the vocal tone of people around them. Air Bud was actually portrayed by a real dog named Buddy. Honeybees actually will cuddle in a giant group hug to stay warm during the winter. While humans only have 3 major blood groups, horses actually have 8, which means they can have thousands of different unique blood types. Ginkgo-toothed beak whales had never been seen in person alive until a team in Mexico finally found 2 last year. Ducks, more often than not, will sleep with one eye open. Same.
Pay attention to this. Do you know why people get demon possessed? People get influenced by demons through what they watch on television. People get demon possessed or demon influenced through the music they listen to. People get influenced by demons because of the company they keep. People get influenced by demons because of the kind of books or materials they read. But you can be set free from demon influence or possession. Simply read your Bible, follow Jesus, and pray every day. If you want Jesus to influence you, tap Jesus in the comments and subscribe for more to learn about Jesus.
These are scary cartoon truths that would terrify you, part 10.
Okay, so Hello Kitty was created back in the 1970s by a Chinese woman whose daughter had cancer. The doctors told the mother there was nothing she could do, and her daughter will die. The mother then went to every church and prayed for her daughter, but none of it worked. The mother then became very desperate and turned to devil worshipping and satanic rituals. She then made a pact with the devil himself. But if the devil cured her daughter's cancer, he wanted one thing in return. He wanted her to create a cartoon character to appeal to children all over the world and to trick people into worshipping the devil. And when her daughter recovered from cancer, she kept her promise and created Hello Kitty. Hello Kitty has no mouth because her daughter had mouth cancer. Her pointy ears represent the devil's horns. The word kitty means demon in Chinese, so Hello Kitty actually means hello demon.
Breaking news, we have another insane story about President Trump coming out of the Epstein files that potentially has to do with murder. So, an FBI agent reported that he spoke to a woman codenamed Caller, and that Caller and her friend, Victim 1, went out one night and they ended up at Trump Plaza. And apparently Victim 1 really wanted to meet the infamous Donald Trump. Caller then says that an unknown man approached her friend and said, "I can introduce you to Trump," and then got her a drink. After taking the drink, Victim 1 woke up naked and sore with $300 on the bed. Victim 1 didn't remember how she got to the room. She says she remembers seeing a flash of Trump's face. Then Victim 1 called her friend the Caller and told her she thought she had been raped. And then this is the craziest thing, victim 1 was never seen again. Years later, her remains were found, and this was in the agent report, victim identified is deceased. So somehow these Epstein drops are just getting darker and darker because that was not the only accusation of missing girls or murder. We just reported on a part of the files where a girl says she witnessed a sex trafficking ring at a Trump golf course in Los Angeles. She goes on to say that girls participating in orgies were rumored to have gone missing or were buried at the facility. She says she was even threatened by Trump's head of security, who said that if she ever talked about what happened or who she saw, she would end up as, quote, fertilizer for the back 9 holes like the others. We're continuing to go through these Epstein files. There's over 3 million, so there's a lot here. Make sure to follow the news girls to stay in the loop as we investigate potentially the last drop of the Epstein files.
You guys, this is so sad. TMZ just reported that Katherine O'Hara passed away today at the age of 71. They don't know what exactly happened yet, but 2 sources did confirm that she's gone. Like, Home Alone is never going to be the same. She was also known for her roles in Beetlejuice and Schitt's Creek. Like, this is so devastating. She was such an amazing actress, and she will truly be missed.
No matter what you find yourself doing in life, my wish for you is for you too to find yourself surrounded by good people with whom you share love and respect and lots of laughs.
On June 5th of 2024, 70-year-old Lisa Manders and her husband were taking a guided safari in Zambia. Doing a safari was something Lisa and her husband had always dreamed of. It was something on their bucket list, and once they retired, they decided it was going to be one thing, checked off that list. So they go on the safari, and they're first doing the one where you drive in the car and you see all this stuff. They see a crap ton of animals. They're enjoying themselves. And then the next thing they do is the bushwalk, which is where you do just that. You walk through the bushes. You're pretty vulnerable. You have a guard in the front who's armed and a guard in the back who's armed. They're kind of your guides. They do have a Jeep following them who's got their water and it's got their lunch on it. They're seeing all these animals and they make their way to this body of water, and there's some hippos out in the distance, but the guides aren't worried about it because he says that the hippos, they're far out in the water, not anything super close to them. So these guides encourage everyone to take as many pictures as they want. So Lisa and her husband stand near the water to take some pictures, and they're standing about 12 feet from what looks like a boulder in the water. This boulder was actually a hippo, and it literally takes off running out of the water and grabs Lisa by her head. Her whole head is in this thing's mouth. It takes Lisa's head, collarbone, some ribs, and both of her arms in its mouth, and this thing is swinging her around like a rag doll. While this was happening, everyone else took off running from this. They were hiding in the bushes from this hippo, the guides included. The hippo became disinterested after Lisa just pretty much went limp, so it threw her 30 feet away, and one of the guides comes out, scares the hippo off. They rush over to Lisa's side. Somehow, someway, she's still alive despite being horribly disfigured, and I can't even imagine. She stayed alive for just a few seconds before passing away. Hippos are some of the deadliest animals in the world for a reason. I cannot imagine just being rushed by a hippo. That would be so scary. Rest in peace to Lisa, and I hope her husband and her family are doing okay.
This photo is of the most dangerous man on earth, the Cincinnati Crawler. This actual photo was captured by the family back in 1974 after he had entered their home. This just gets 100 times crazier, so stick with me. In 1974, the Johnson family lived in Cincinnati. They had a nice house in the middle of the countryside. Not much went on here. It was just a very quiet, homely neighborhood. But shortly after this, some very strange things started happening. Their 14-year-old daughter would claim repeatedly she would see these eyes staring at her from outside of her window, the dead of night, peering in, staring at her. Along with most nights, the sounds of banging and footsteps, which the family just thought was rats, but it definitely wasn't rats. Until one night when their youngest son was laying in bed, ready to go to sleep. Now, every evening, the family dog would come in and sleep with this young boy. He'd jump up onto the bed and sleep. But this one night, the son felt this dog jump up onto his bed. He went down to pet it, and it definitely was not the dog. That's when he spotted this guy, like 6'7" tall man, standing at the end of his bed. After everybody spotted him, the man ran out of the house and was never seen again. No one knows what happened to this man, who is he, and what was he trying to do.
The dark meaning behind Ring Around the Rosie. Now let's talk about it.
Now I'm sure we all have heard the sweet nursery rhyme Ring Around the Rosie, where the kids stand in a circle and they run around and then they all fall down, right? But of course, it's not as sweet as we think it is, because 9 times out of 10, when they make stuff super kid friendly, it originated from something not so kid friendly. Now this song is related to the dark history from the plague, and it has been associated with the Great Plague of 1665. And earlier it was the bubonic plague that took place in England. And the lyrics is a dark reference of the plague's symptoms and deaths. Like London lost 15% of their population from these plagues. And it was said that those with the bubonic plague would have really bad fevers, swelling, cramps, coughing up blood. Some people believe this phrase, ring around the Rosie, is an allusion of the deadly times. The Rosies basically represents like the red spots that was on their face because they were covered in them. And they're also known as like fever rashes. The phrase pocket full of posies was basically because people would have to carry around flowers because it smelled so bad. Like it literally smelled like death walking around in the streets. So people would carry flowers around with them to basically try to help sweeten the smell up because it just smelled like death everywhere. And the ashes represents the cremation of the bodies because there was so many bodies they had to cremate. And then last but not least, we all fall down could be a physical representation of death. But I just find it really weird that they make this stuff into kid songs. Like, it always sounded weird to me. Ring around the rosies, pocket full. Like, that is creepy already. But I bet a lot of y'all did not know that it was about the plague. Now, some people say it's just a regular kid song that is not even about the plague. But be for real. Ashes, ashes, we all fall down. Nothing kidly is about that. But let me know what y'all think. And let me know if y'all want to hear more about stuff that is not so kid-friendly, but they make it into kid-friendly stuff. Let me know what y'all think in the comments.
The video footage I'm about to show you is so unbelievably creepy. This is a ghost that was caught on camera in broad daylight. So on December 31st, 2008, there was a family that were on vacation in the most haunted city in America, Savannah, Georgia. So they ended up going to the Colonial Park Cemetery, and I freaking love the cemetery. It is haunted AF. It is amazing. You gotta go if you're in Savannah. You gotta go to the Colonial Park Cemetery. Now remember, it was in broad daylight, and obviously this is a nighttime picture, but the son, he was 17 years old, and he was just filming randomly around, and this is what he caught on camera.
Jesse zoomed in and out on various tombstones, and then he saw something strange.
And out of the corner of the camera, this kid caught my eye.
He says a child running after a shadowy woman.
Couldn't even see her face, so I just focused on this kid.
He says the figure suddenly jumped onto a tree. Moments later, it dropped and disappeared.
Hold on.
Look at this disturbing footage of Epstein recently released.
Now, because the Department of Justice and FBI are not releasing any additional information with really any of these videos or clips, I don't know what to make of that footage. But to me, this looks like a video recording, like a screen recording of a live photograph. Now, you can see Epstein is clearly pointing out whatever's happening with his lip and his kind of lower face jaw area. And I don't know what that is. If somebody is watching this video and could provide some clarity for me as to why his lip or face would look like that, that would be great. Obviously, my mind jumps to some sort of STD, first of all, but to my knowledge, Epstein didn't have any of those. This also, to me, looks like he could have been punched or, had some sort of injury to this part of his face, but I can't tell what it is exactly. But regardless, there are a number of videos and photos of him from this recent drop with an injury like this. I don't know if it's the same injury to his kind of face/lip. So if you guys have any ideas on what this could be as I'm doing my research, please let me know, because I don't know, there's something about this that just seems really ominous and disturbing. And if you want to join me on my journey to expose these freaks, you can check out my channel, The Conspiracy Files, or you can listen to the show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
There are a lot of good things happening in the world right now. A message in a bottle from World War I was recently found in Australia, and it was given to the families over 100 years later of the soldiers who wrote it. Back when the world shut down in 2020, this dolphin from Australia named Mystique started bringing gifts like shells, bottles, corals to shore because he missed human interaction. A boy born with a rare genetic condition can now breathe, swallow, and eat independently because the surgeon rebuilt his jaw using bone from his ribs. Australia has so much solar that it's offering everyone free electricity for at least 3 hours a day. This Uber driver stayed by this man's side while he was going to the ER, and 7 years later, they're still friends. A person from Alabama mailed $40 along with this apology note to a restaurant in Nova Scotia to apologize for not picking up their order because they called the wrong restaurant from the wrong country. During football games at the University of Iowa, they wave up to the children in the children's hospital that overlooks the stadium every time.
This boy was tied to a tree and set on fire. Robbie Middleton was just 8 years old when his life was permanently changed in a horrific act of violence in Texas. In 1998, a 13-year-old neighbor attacked Robbie, restrained him outdoors, and tied him to a tree. He then proceeded to set him on fire. Against all odds, Robbie survived, but the injuries he sustained were catastrophic. He suffered burns over nearly his entire body, leading to years of intensive medical treatment, repeated surgeries, and constant physical pain. Despite everything, Robbie grew into a young man known for his resilience and strength, living far longer than doctors initially believed possible. In 2010, at the age of 20, Robbie passed away due to the complications linked to the injuries he endured as a child. His case remains deeply unsettling, not only for the violence itself, but for the long aftermath Robbie was forced to endure. This case is truly disturbing and awful, and I can't believe that this happened to Robbie. This is by far one of the worst cases in Texas's history.
African women are being lured and pushed into sex trafficking in Dubai, the so-called safest city in the world for women. BBC have started an investigation, and what they have found is beyond horrifying. They interviewed this lady called Lexi, who was tricked to go to the city of Dubai for this opportunity, and when she got there, she was pushed into sex work. She was crammed with 12 to 15 other African women in this tiny room, no AC, bunkers, like just imagine bunkers, wall to wall, beds everywhere, living conditions so horrific. I mean, you think of Dubai, all this glitz and glamour, that is not the reality. These women experience all sorts of horrific things, from name calling like black monkeys to being forced on their hands and knees. And Lexi even said she had one client offered her £15,000 to gang rape her, beat her, piss in her face, plus they offered her an additional £5,000 to make her eat their shit and record it. The most saddest part of all of this, when Lexi managed to escape and when she went to the police for help, they literally said to her, "You Africans like to cause problems amongst each other. We don't want to get involved." They refused to help her, investigate, do anything. And when the BBC questioned them, they did not respond. This is happening to God knows how many women. Hundreds who are being tricked to go to Dubai for an opportunity, and they're being forced into this work. And just the worst thing, their captors are getting away with it. The men that do this to these women are getting away with it. The police refuse to investigate anything, and these women are left scarred for life.
Seven things Shaitan does to you while you sleep, and you have no idea before we proceed. For both Muslims and non-Muslims watching, stay till the end. The last one will surprise you. Type in the comments, "Ya Allah, protect me from Shaitan," because this is exactly the kind of video Shaitan wants you to scroll past, so you never find out what he does while you sleep. And whoever spreads truth, Allah rewards them in this life and the next. So let's begin. 1. He ties 3 knots at the back of your neck. Each knot whispers, "Sleep. The night is long." Miss Fajr, those knots did their job. The Prophet said, only dhikr and wudu can undo them. 2. He triggers your desires through wet dreams. It's not random. It's Shaitan pushing your nafs while your guard is down. Then he shames you for it when you wake up. 3. He literally sleeps in your nose. The Prophet said, Shaitan spends the night in the upper part of your nose. That's why we're taught to sniff water during wudu, to flush him out. 4. If you sleep without dhikr, he sleeps beside you. No Bismillah, no Ayatul Kursi. Then Shaitan settles in. He whispers into your sleep, and sometimes you even feel his presence. 5. He blocks you from Qiyam al-Layl. How many times have you planned to wake up, but never did? Shaitan's job is to delay, not destroy. One missed night turns into weeks. 6. He fills your dreams with fear. filth or distraction, nightmares, inappropriate thoughts, confusion. Shaitan hijacks your sleep to break your peace. He knows if your nights are disturbed, your days will be weak. 7. He celebrates when you miss Isha and Fajr. Sleep becomes his biggest weapon. He doesn't care how late you're up, as long as you're too tired for Allah. Ya Allah, protect our hearts, even in sleep, because it's when you're most unaware. That's when Shaitan works hardest. But the real question is, what is Shaitan doing to me while I sleep?
This is wild. An 80-year-old man from England has been sentenced to 16 years in prison after using £2.4 million he won from the lottery to build an underground drug empire, which he built to a valuation of 288 million. What in the Walter White? Pensioner John Spivey, who lives in a quiet rural area just outside of Wigan, won the lottery in 2010. But instead of kicking his feet up and retiring with millions in the bank, the court heard that he decided to purchase a premises, help adapt it, and even bought machinery worth thousands of dollars to make drugs. He then hired 3 men to help out with his operation, one of them being his son. What a great dad. And then for the next decade, John and his small team started flooding the region with millions upon millions of these counterfeit tablets disguised as diazepam. Oh, and on the side, they were also supplying firearms. So eventually, their huge operation was busted. And during the trial, the judge concluded this as the largest production of drugs of this nature that has ever been uncovered by the police. John will be released from prison at the age of 96. Probably gonna run that prison too.
This horrific reality show kidnapped a man and starved him on TV. I have no idea how this TV show was legal. The show was called Susunu Denpa Shonen. It was the most extreme form of reality TV show that you could get. The program ran from 1998 to 2002 and was broadcast in Japan. It essentially subjected its participants to torture and humiliation. While the contestants were traumatized, the viewers seemed to love it. It was almost an extreme real-life version of Squid Game. On one season of the show, a contestant was put into a room and was made to watch TV. If his sports team won, he would get fed, and if they didn't win, he wouldn't. This meant that when his team was going through a losing streak, he would not have access to food or electricity. One now very well-known series of the show saw a struggling comedian nicknamed Nasubi. He was isolated, stripped, and basically starved in the name of entertainment. The producers mocked him for his appearance and cut off contact with the outside world. All he had was a pile of magazines. He essentially had to win magazine sweepstakes and was only allowed to live off what he earned. At first, he was visibly starving. He then had to live off small items like a bag of rice and at one point even had to eat dog food. Viewers saw him cry, scream, and essentially descend into madness. All the time he was unaware that he was being live streamed. This went on for a staggering 15 months. The show actually broke Japanese records and became the most watched program in history. The show came to a cruel end when the walls around him crumbled and revealed a live studio audience. He was obviously extremely confused. He thought that they had been recording him and they were going to maybe edit it and broadcast it at a later stage. He had a huge struggle with mental health after the show, understandably. He was immediately thrust into the limelight and experienced physical health struggles as well as mental health, such as experiencing overheating when he actually wore clothes. In 2016, he proved his resilience by climbing Mount Everest. He spoke about how the torture of the show had actually helped him to build resilience and to obviously achieve something great.
Okay, so El Silbón, or the Whistler, is a Venezuelan/Colombian urban legend. He is a demonic spirit that normally goes after drunks and woman beaters. He will suck the blood out of drunks and will tear apart woman beaters, adding their bones to the sack that he carries on his back. It is said that by the time you notice the whistling, it's already too late. You can escape by having hot peppers on you, or if you have a dog. These are the only two things that El Silbón fears. The legend goes that a horrible young man murdered his father. Out of rage when he didn't bring home the groceries he requested. Apparently he wanted some deer heart. The rest of the family was so horrified by this cruel act that they started whipping him, spreading hot pepper on his wounds. They chased him out of the family home with multiple dogs chewing at his flesh. He has since been doomed to carry a bag of his father's bones and torture the living for eternity.
नहीं हो
Recently, a strange girl appeared online. Before this, no one had ever seen her anywhere. This child has very unusual eyes. Not only are they red, but they also shine as if they were made of glass. According to the girl's mother, she possesses paranormal abilities, meaning she can predict the future. Previously, her parents kept her hidden from society to avoid questions, but once the girl started predicting the future, they began showing her and announcing what would happen next. Looking at her, it is clear she is a bit unusual. The girl is only 4 years old and has been hidden by her parents for all that time. It could also be a simple eye condition, and on top of that, the child is an albino, even though her parents are dark-skinned.
And curtain number 1 is correct.
Wait. You don't remember what she looks like.
Which of these facts is the hardest to believe? On average, children stress their parents out 6 times a day. Playing Tetris for 3 minutes can reduce cravings for drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, and caffeine is more addictive than cannabis. At this very moment, you are the oldest you've ever been and the youngest you will ever be. In 2016, a Colombian farmer discovered $600 million cash while digging up his own land. He handed it all over to the police. Would you do the same thing if you found this money? In Japan, there is a man who makes $80,000 a year by renting himself out as a friend to lonely people. Mosquitoes prefer to bite people with type O blood. An animal's yawn is based on how large their brain is. The bigger the brain, the longer the yawn. According to studies, smart people tend to have messier rooms. Cough more?
Bro, scientists just found something huge out about Stonehenge. It's one of the wonders of the world, and there's so many questions surrounding it. What is it? How did they transport these things here? What the hell is going on? Now, we know that the blue stones at Stonehenge were quarried around 140 miles away in Wales. And the large question previously was always, did glaciers carry these blue stones during the Ice Age? And that's one of the reasons why some of this actually formulated here. Because surely, there's no way humans carried these over 200 miles, and some of them even further, right? This place is over 5,000 years old. That's when it's believed to have been built. And if you don't know much, well, life was very different back then. We didn't have much. Or did we? Detailed mineral analysis and geological fingerprinting has been done recently, showing these rocks actually match from Pembrokeshire, not glacier erratics. And there is no signs of glacier transport, which means there is now confirmation that these were physically moved by people. Although in today's age this would be a very easy thing to move some rocks like this is a massive prehistoric engineering feat, because doing this 5,000 years ago is completely different. But it also raises the question of, did we have more technology that we don't know about back then as well, with literally nothing moving these over 150 miles. Very similar to the whole pyramid debate, which we still don't know for certain. But it's very interesting to have these answers and know that they were deliberately moved, and we'll see what else comes out.
This is one of the darkest images I think I've seen in a documentary. This is a photo of 14-year-old Elizabeth Smart taken at a party just months after she was kidnapped from her bed by this guy. And in this photo, she's about 20 to 30 minutes away from her parents' home. She was repeatedly brought out in public near where she was kidnapped, but no one ever knew it was her because of what her captor made her wear while out. Netflix just released their documentary on the Elizabeth Smart kidnapping, and it really highlights how close she was to home for the majority of the 9 months she was kidnapped, and how she was not saved because law enforcement continually failed her. Also, I cover stuff that's dark but interesting and have a lot of documentary recs if you want to follow along. Like in 2002 when she was kidnapped, I didn't realize how close she was to home. Like you can see where her home is labeled down at the foothills of the mountain, and you can also see up here the camp that she was brought to in the middle of the night. She was taken when this man, who called himself Emmanuel, approached her father in public saying that he was a handyman in need of work. But that ended up being a lie. It turns out he had seen Elizabeth while she was out with her family, became obsessed with her, thought that she should be one of his wives, and he approached her father so that he could get her address. And her father agreed to hire him and brought him into their home. But photos like this are a scary reminder of how close she came to being rescued if people had only asked more questions. There was a time that an officer approached her in public but was scared to ask her to take off her head dressings because he thought it would violate her right to religious freedom, and so he just left her. Let me know if you've seen the documentary, and then also on my podcast Clues, we cover this case and we get a little bit more into the close calls that she had with law enforcement, so I think it's a good companion piece to listen to as you watch the documentary.
If you ever get kidnapped, you do what Elizabeth Smart did, because her last name was Smart for a reason. Also, hi, I'm Grace. Can I be your horror girly? So they came in through her window, kidnapped her into the night. Her sister saw all of it. Then they took her to the forest nearby, and he married her, and she was 14. When they decided that they were going to leave town, she knew she was going to be if she didn't figure something out. This is from the Netflix documentary Kidnapped that came out earlier this week. So what does she do? She goes up to this homeless religious man who has trapped her. She says, you know, you're so great and you're so grand. I think God told me that we actually have to go back to Utah, but I'm a dumb, stupid little woman. She said this after she gained his trust. So she was like, you need to check with God to make sure I'm not just a dumb, stupid woman, and see if that's really what God is telling us to do, since you're his prophet and you're his chosen one. And he was like, yeah, I know, I'm pretty great, and you are a dumb, stupid woman. So let me check with God now that we both trust each other. Let me check with God, and I'll let you know what God says. And then he comes back to her and he's like, you know, God actually did agree because things are not working out here. Let's go back to Utah. Thank you, Elizabeth. These are pictures from the campsite. But then that is how this girl was then later rescued and found. And thank God her parents were like, the police's advice, we're just gonna go public with the suspect sketch, because at this point we have nothing to lose. Like, we have everything to gain. And so based on this sketch that came to the little sister's mind months later, and then all of the missing photos of Elizabeth, someone in a random area in Utah recognized them together. Because remember, she was also walking around with her little religious thing, and if the police came up to them, he would say she can't take it off because of her religion. But because they showed the picture to the public, someone then saw them, alerted the police, and then she was discovered and she was saved. All because she said, we gotta go back to Utah, and the parents released the pictures.